Claire and Bender are still together?
No.
Well, how long do you think that relationship lasted? When did it start? 85? 86?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it lasted a couple of weeks until her friends found out.
Maybe that weekend was all that lasted, and then she's minus a diamond earring, and yeah,
That's okay. She'll get another.
she can get another one.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, this is we're at Texas Toast Guitars. Thanks for watching our weekly Thursday live stream, guitar chat with Chris and Matt, and of course, all of our live streams are advertising free. That means that you don't have to sit and watch ads for whatever you get ads for. How do they do that? Like they base it on what the viewer is in. So like if you're into jet skis, they'll put ads for that stuff. And okay.
Yeah. How do they know?
I don't know, sir. So yeah. So anyway, Chris, here's I don't know if we've done this question before, but let's do this question now.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Top 5 guitars that if you could snap your fingers, they'd be gone forever. What do you got?
If I could snap my fingers and they would be gone forever. So are we talking individual guitars or brands?
Well, okay, here's what we're not talking about. We're talking about models of guitar. We're not talking about,
not the
John Smith's Strat, or we're talking or
signature / model.
Every single Breedlove. We're talking about models of guitar that you want to see gone. And you guys play along at home.
You should have warned me about this. This is a hard one.
Part of this, part of the fun of this is it puts people on the spot, and they have to go, "Oh yeah, I wish that guitar's dumb. I don't want that."
Well, yeah.
So I want to see what you guys are writing too. Let me know if you could wave a magic wand, what guitars would you just kind of whisk away from the world? What models of guitar?
What model of guitar?
While you're thinking, I'm going to say hello to Dan and Rob and Sean, and Dylan's here. Chris Hendricks, Wayne is here. Lefty, 3J Music, Joey Dano guitars. So everyone's here waiting to know, wanting to know, Chris, Joy's here, Eric is here, Rusty's here.
Okay.
Oh, Rusty says Jazz Masters. That's one of Chris's favorites. Yep. It's not going to be that one. All right, what do you got?
It's not going to be that one.
Just throw some stuff.
Just throw some stuff out there.
Here's the thing.
Good Lord.
At the end of the day,
I don't want.
You don't have a magic wand.
You're right.
So it doesn't really matter.
You're right.
Number 1.
I'm going to say Stratocaster.
All right.
Because there's enough Stratocasters in the world to last everybody more than a lifetime.
True. However, I did say that if you could snap your fingers, they'd be gone. So that would mean that there'd be no Strat. Okay. So what's number 2?
Then I guess I don't really want to play that way. I'm a fan of the Jackson Kelly.
Okay.
That guitar could go away forever.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of
Doug's getting better
too. Tulips. I think those are stupid looking little guitars.
Okay. This is easy.
Yeah. The I don't even know which model Rickenbacker. One of the models of Rickenbacker I don't like.
Well, is it the 12 string or the 6? Is it that like
one that looks kind of jumbo-y? No, I actually like a bunch of Rickenbackers.
Okay, yeah,
but not one of them. But I hate it so much I don't even know what it's called. Is that 3?
That's 4.
That's 4. Okay, one more. I'll say the Gibson Corvus.
Okay. So we have the Stratocaster, which is a bold,
iconic guitar,
right out of the chute. Bold move.
Well, I wasn't playing by the correct rules.
Jackson Kelly or Keeley, I don't know how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
The Tesco Tulip, some model of Rickenbacker, and a Gibson Corbin. There's no Peavies on the list, but yeah.
Yeah, there could have been several Peavies. I actually watched an old video of ours, and your Vandenberg was on the wall.
Oh wow! Oh, that's an old video then. Everyone, Doug Santaniello is feeling a little better. I think he was under the weather a little bit. So that's good to know, Doug. Jay is here. Jay, I've got your drawings rolled up right here, and I need to get them to you. I haven't forgotten about you, sir. Wayne says if you got rid of Strats, a lot of people would be in the market for a new guitar, so it might be a good business to say that. Okay,
There you go.
that might be, yeah. We should put a bunch of them on there. Yeah. Strats, Tellys, Les Pauls, SGs, and
335s.
sure. Yeah. Ibanez Vi edition. Do you really need a handle? Doug says he can't think of a guitar that he would want to sell. Lefty says in a world without Strats. ... So there you go. That's it's a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
It and it's just for fun.
It is, yeah. And I don't know that I hate any guitars.
No,
some I think are stupider than others.
Yeah. Well, the Gibson Corvus should be right up there.
Yeah. That just
There were a number of those kind of, what were they like? They were made out of like tone board,
yeah.
which I think is guitar speak for MDF
Yeah.
or something. I can't remember. Hey, by the way, Dylan did a video on this. Did you see Paul Reed Smith was kind of railing earlier this week?
Yeah, I saw something about it. I didn't watch any of the footage.
I haven't watched it either.
But I guess he
the gist of it, based on the write-up that I did read, was all the vintage guitars are not magic, and most of them are broken. And you and I have had we have seen a handful of vintage instruments. Not many of them would pass muster if they were brand new, because they're old and they've been played a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
So like frets are worn, nut slots are off. But even stuff like things that, like, if you looked at pickups, you would think that the bridge pickup would have a higher output than the neck pickup. Not always the case.
No.
I think they just kind of shoved stuff in there, and that was that.
Yeah. I did see an interview with Joe Satriani, who in his early days was teaching guitar at a vintage music store. And so he said he got to play lots and lots and lots of vintage instruments.
Okay.
Most of them were terrible.
Not what he, that's why he doesn't play them.
Not good, but terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, awful. And he's like, yeah, I can make, or I can assemble stuff better than this.
Yeah.
So that's what he did. Except for one guitar. There was one like junior or special or something like that he really liked, that he bought.
I have seen him play a single cut special before, and I don't know if that's the one.
It wasn't that one. Okay. He said he sold it later on. But
Josh Smith says that your shirt is dope. He used the F word, but yeah.
Dope AF?
No, he effing dope. Yes.
Cool. Good.
Dan wants to know something about Dan Electro. Some Dan Electros are fun, some are just kind of junky. And he also says that the Corvus is a tacky looking unit. Rusty Shackelford asks a good question, Chris.
Okay.
If you magic wanded away Les Pauls and Strats, how long would it take for someone to invent them again? Well, without those two guitars, what guitars would also not exist? What would the Paul Reed Smith, what would that model look like? Would Paul Reed Smith be, maybe he might be like a cabinet maker instead of a guitar maker without I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, if you could magic wand away those two instruments, what other things wouldn't exist, and what would the world of the electric guitar look like all of a sudden?
I don't know. Yeah, that's an interesting question. What if those two guitars weren't around? What other guitars would have supplanted their iconic stature? What guitar would everybody be playing?
Well, but like, would there? I mean, you could make the argument that the P bass existed before the Strat, so maybe people would start doing double cutaway instruments.
Yeah.
Eventually. But yeah, would the SG be a thing, or would we like jump immediately to Flying V's and Firebirds and
maybe
and stuff like that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Would we eschew all traditional looking instruments? I don't know. Good question. It's something, if you're having trouble sleeping at night, you can think about
Think
that.
about that and let
And
us know.
yeah,
Yeah, come
yeah.
up with something good.
Um, Paul Reed Smith would be tapping tabletops. BC Riches would be more popular. Um, Dan Morris, Old Dog Guitars, says PRS was all over the place in comparing electric guitar wood selection to violin making. Yeah, I remember, if you watch Mr. Smith in the mid 80s, there are videos of him out there. He doesn't really deep dive into tapping on wood and things like that back then. I think
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that that's a fairly recent thing, but um, Paul Reed Smith is a fantastic guitar builder, but an even better marketer. Okay, and I think that he should be applauded for both. Um, but the simple fact of the matter is that, yeah, the all of the guitars all of the guitars that everyone thinks that are magic because they're from 1959 or whatever, no one was tapping on that. No one selected
No.
that lumber for tonal reasons. Now, and we've talked about this before too. There's a gigantic difference between voicing a soundboard on a acoustic guitar. I'm not even going to say something like a violin because that's a completely different thing um, than an electric
Even
guitar.
more removed
Yeah,
from the guitar versus or
yeah,
electric guitar versus acoustic
yeah.
guitar situation. Yeah.
But voicing the soundboard of a steel string acoustic or a nylon string classical instrument is very different than tapping on a piece of lumber that's 8 quarter or 12 quarter. And how about this? Can we all at least agree on that? Probably not, but here we are. Okay. So, Chris, one of the things that we want to talk about tonight is how you cannot buy your way into proficiency
Okay.
when it comes to anything. But since we're guitar makers, we're going to talk about guitar making, and we're going to talk about some guitar making don'ts.
Okay.
Okay. Definitely don't do these things that we're going to talk about. Okay.
Okay.
So what, and guys, remember, this is an ad-free live stream. If you want to get some questions in, once we get rolling, I'm not going to see everything on the comment side. So, but if you do a super chat, we'll see that stuff, and we absolutely appreciate that. Those super chats. By the way, you will not see Brian Duncan in the comment section today because he is in
England.
merry old England,
Yes.
probably having a bit of spotted dick right about
I
now.
believe so. He's been carrying a can of it with him.
A can of spotted dick
I didn't
in
even know what it was. I had to
merry
ask
old England.
somebody
It's like
what it
a
was.
cake, right?
It's a sponge cake in a can.
Canned cake.
So why would you not call it spotted dick?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I shudder to think what they might call some other things in a can.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
if that's what they call that. Yeah.
Beats me.
Yeah. He was at a F1 track today. They're filming a Brad Pitt movie, so he was
Oh, cool.
watching them run around the racetrack.
Van Shank Guitars, who's been a member on the YouTube channel for almost a little over 2 years, says thanks for keeping it ad free. You are welcome. Daryl Hazelwood says, should easy lock inserts always be used on bolt-on necks? No, no, they don't have to be used on necks anytime unless you like them. Guitar Doc 71 asks, is it possible that the reason why 50s and early 60s guitars are so amazing is because they were built primarily hands-on, so much less automation, so much more um, fingertips on wood? Great question, and that actually um, segues nicely into our the notion of buying proficiency. You cannot buy any tool that will automatically make you a guitar maker. I don't care if it's a $20 file from StewMac or a $200,000 5-axis CNC machine.
Uh-huh.
You will not be a guitar maker just because you buy things. Now, the flip side to that is, in order to be a guitar maker, you're gonna need some tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a quick super chat from Van Shank Guitars. Says for the ad jar. Oh, God bless you, sir. Thank you so much. So, Chris,
So can we go back to the 50s question
yeah, let's go back to the
a little
50s
bit?
question.
So, the common thought now is, well, CNC, it's just so much more accurate.
I hear that all the time.
And let's just say yes. Okay.
CNC is definitely more accurate
Yeah.
than my pin router is.
Yeah. How and you have to play a lot of old guitars to quote unquote find a good one, right?
I think that's
That's what people say.
I think I've heard that too. Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
let's for the sake of this conversation say that that's accurate.
Were they all good back then? What happened to the bad ones?
I don't know.
Where are the bad ones?
I
Are they
don't know.
gone? In 1959, Les Paul Gibson made how many Les Pauls?
From 1957 to 59, it was like what 1700 or something.
1,700, and there's only 2,100 left.
Yeah, there's
That's
more
an old joke.
1959 Les Pauls now than there were in
But
1960. Hold on one second. There's some super chats from
Okay.
Joey Dano says ad free, and Dan Andreas says can't be the only Canuck not donating. God bless you, Dan.
There you
Thank
go.
you. And then you too, Doug.
Yeah, so I think you can't have it both ways. You can't have, well, CNC is just so much more precise and accurate, but the
Mhm.
old guitars are just so much better.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
really, there's still, even after it comes off a CNC machine, there's still a lot of handwork to do. I'm mostly just rambling.
I was the biggest advocate for not using CNC, and who railed on CNC more than me, Chris?
I don't,
Anybody?
I don't think anybody.
Uh,
Yeah.
Possibly Alex at Zachary Guitars,
Oh, yeah.
possibly.
Yeah.
But I was adamant that we didn't want to have any
Mhm.
CNC anything.
So here's my final thoughts on this whole thing.
Mhm.
The guys in the 50s and 60s used those guitars. Why? Because that's all they could get.
Mhm.
That's all there was.
Okay.
And if you bought, whether you bought a cheap one or you bought the best you could buy,
Uh-huh.
that's all there was. There were no 40s electric guitars to
Okay.
play. There were no 30s electric guitars. There were new guitars, and they played them, and they
Mhm.
made great music with them. And then later on, people went, man, those guitars sure did sound cool, sure were good. And so that's why people like them, is because those guys played them and played them well.
That could be another
And
example
it's
of
and they're
buying
cool.
something in order to attain mastery that will
Yeah.
not come by simply buying something.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
soon as I get a vintage instrument, I'll
Mhm.
sound just like some guy
Yeah.
or lady
Yeah.
that I like who played that same thing.
Yep. And old guitars are really, really cool. Some of them play really great. Some of them don't play so great. A
Mhm.
lot of them are just worn out, used up, modified, whatever. But I would argue that new guitars do everything those guitars do plus.
Mhm.
Plus they're new.
Well, yeah,
So you get to wear them out on your own.
I also think though that if if you want something in your arsenal, one of the very most important, in fact, the most important thing, the most important attribute that it should have is availability.
Uh-huh.
It should be something that you can get.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, I think that now exclusivity and availability are not the same thing. I think that something exclusive is something cool.
Yeah.
You know, one of our challengers or one of our icon guitars are definitely cool. They're very exclusive. We can only make so many of them.
Yeah.
Dylan pickups are the same way.
Mhm.
You know, that's why it's such a great combination. Dylan pickups and Texas Toast guitars. Um, it's two very exclusive things that are available, but you kind of gotta You got to wait a little while to
Yep.
get those. Dan Morris, Old Dog Guitars. I use YouTube Premium, but still want to contribute to ad free. Well, thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate it. I realize that there are uh, a lot of ad blockers and stuff, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So uh, I let's this idea of hands-on guitar makers versus CNC, dare I say, factory workers. And not everybody who works in the Gibson factory or the Fender factory or the Paul Reed Smith factory is as into guitars as the other guys are. I
Hmm.
don't know. I mean, there's probably someone who, or at Kiesel, they talk about that a lot. Roddy says, looking forward to my first order. Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. Jay says, down with ads, love ad free. Thank you guys so much. The ad free thing is really working out for us. And I love, because I don't see, that's the problem. I don't know like what YouTube puts in there. Like for all I know, there's 60 ads in a 60-minute video, and you guys will be like having to like trudge through these dumb ads all the time. So
Worse than watching Big Bang Theory.
that's right. Um, yes. So anyway, um, but you cannot buy your way into being someone who likes guitars. You cannot buy your way into someone who's good at building guitars or good at playing guitars or any of that stuff. You have to earn that. Now, will a $200,000 CNC machine be a good tool for the budding guitar maker?
Probably not.
Probably not right away, anyway, right?
Yeah. I mean, CNC is as much about design and ability to work a computer as it is,
Yeah.
anything else.
I think
There's a whole lot of other stuff you get to learn with that.
if you are a skilled artisan and you want to automate your production line, eh, that's two deals that it is rare to find someone who knows how to do them both. Let's
Mhm.
take a couple more super chats and then let's talk about that. One from Rob who says, was the quality of wood better back in the 50s? And was the quality of wood better back in the 50s? Rob, there are a lot of people who talk about old growth and things like that. Possibly. Um, is the level of quilt and flame and figure used in, let's just say, Paul Reed Smith's uh super duper wowie zowie 10 top
Mhm.
carved top guitars, is that getting worse? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Does that
um
guitar sound any better because it's got that top?
oh no, but that's a kind of wood that
Yeah.
I actually think that regular plain maple tops like this Challenger right here are super cool and very, very excellent. So
Mhm.
yeah. Was the wood better? Maybe, but that would mean that
Uh,
every single guitar that
well,
that
and
is,
wood is highly different
mhm.
from piece to piece and batch to batch, and I'm sure it was that way back then too, right?
It would
Tree to
have to be.
tree. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk
Yeah.
about that. As a Does buying the single best piece of wood or the single most figured piece of wood suddenly make your guitar super awesome? It still has to earn that
Yeah.
guitar,
Mm.
that moniker of guitar. You still have to shape it and build it to being something excellent,
Mhm.
right? Um, so so yeah, I think that there are, and that brings us to our first guitar building don't. You know where I'm going with this,
I
right,
do.
Chris?
Yeah, it was the first one that I thought of.
Yeah. So if you are just starting out, and by the way, I talk about earning
Mhm.
your proficiency of guitar building. There's a lot of you guys who've come to Texas Toast, gotten some training, and I've done remarkable things here in our shop, and then take it back to, and sometimes that's it. Sometimes that's all you do. But then there's other guys who go back to their home shops, and they like Doc, for example. Doc sent me some pictures of what he's up to, and Doug. and Doug has a shop at his place. I know I'm missing out. I think like Sean Joint's doing some stuff. Who else is doing? There's a lot of people who come out here.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys that aren't necessarily home building guitars from scratch, but they're fixing stuff up and they're doing repairs and they're still learning things. And I think that's even as awesome as I am, I'm still learning things, Matt.
Okay. So let's get to that. But first, let's take another super chat from Dylan, who says, "Isn't a tree 70 years older in 2024 than it used to be in 1959?" Yeah, I don't think every single tree got cut down in 1959.
No.
There's bound to be some lumber somewhere that's
Yeah.
And that if you say that the wood was better back then, perhaps. But is every guitar that was built in 1952 built with old growth hunter and mahogany? Or is every guitar that was built in 1960 built with old growth swamp ash? I don't even know if that's even a thing. I don't think it was.
You've probably seen pictures of towns, and when they moved into the town, it was covered in trees, and 2 years later there were no trees.
And then they were all guitars.
That's exactly right. So so the wood they used in the 50s, it's not like it started growing in the 1800s or the 1600s or before Columbus got here. That was probably fairly new growth as well.
It potentially was, yeah.
The reason they used the woods they used was because it was plentiful and it was easy to machine.
Yeah.
And by plentiful, I mean relatively inexpensive.
All right, so let's get down to our first guitar dome, Chris.
Okay.
Why don't you take us home?
Well, I think what you're talking about is for your first guitar, don't overspend on wood.
Yeah.
Don't go out and buy a $300 piece of killer maple top.
What about your second guitar?
I still wouldn't do it.
Third guitar?
Maybe if the second guitar turned out pretty nice and you're building basically the exact same guitar. Then maybe.
You can do a lot with ordinary wood.
Yeah, you really can.
And wood that is easy to shape. You know what? Some of the most difficult wood that I ever worked was that dumb plywood Les Paul. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, okay, it's this stupid plywood Les Paul. People still comment on that video and they're like, ha ha ha, all that work to have a guitar made out of plywood. I knew going in that was what it was going to be. If you hamstring yourself with difficult to work wood, I think that is just as bad as really figured expensive wood, because you might not be as quick to kind of go for it.
Well, and there's still a lot of other stuff, not even just working the wood, but finishing wood, and there's a lot of other stuff you need to learn too before you can get to the point where, and nobody wants to see a bad finish on a really nice piece of wood. Or even a marginal finish. It's got to be pretty top end.
What would you use if you were going to build your very first guitar, what would you make the neck out of? Now this is tricky because
it depends on what kind of guitar it is.
All right. What kind of guitar is it?
Well, I think everybody's first guitar should be a Telecaster.
Agreed.
And
now this is where the
default, I would make the neck out of maple.
Yeah, probably best. However, if you were just narrowing it down to, I just want to make my first guitar, I don't know that I would say use maple for the neck.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah. What would you say?
Well, I would say that mahogany machine's one heck of a lot easier than hard rock maple.
Yeah.
Like way better. I would say, in fact, I am to the point now where I would say if it's your very first guitar, you should build a Telecaster, and you could use either ash or alder. And you should buy a neck from Steve at Maximum Guitar Works that doesn't have any frets in it, but is ready to go. And and the radius on the fretboard is done, and the back of the neck is profiled. You can press in frets, you can do all that stuff, and you can have a really neat guitar when it's done. Now, you won't have profiled the neck, you won't have radius the fretboard, but you will have built a guitar, and it will be a good one. But you will have done frets and nut and that kind of stuff.
Does Steve offer? I know he offers that neck that you just said. Does he offer something that doesn't have any contouring on the back but has a radius and all of that?
I think so, but I think it's more money than it is to just get a profile.
Oh yeah,
I
okay,
think.
okay.
And this would be that's a language that
Should
we'd
ask
have to
him
have for
tomorrow.
Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be an interesting way to go too, because there's a couple of
Key things. Yeah.
key thing. Well, yeah, I mean, getting a really solid radius on a neck is a thing that can be pretty tricky and hard to do at home.
And daunting.
But
Yeah, with
shaping the back of a neck is, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's something you can do with some fairly basic tools.
And then plus like slotting a fretboard, you're going to need to buy that's an intriguing idea, Chris.
Yeah.
I wonder if Steve could I don't know how much more it costs or if it costs any more, but like a radius fretboard, slotted, ready for frets and ready for profiling.
Yeah.
Intriguing
Kind of like
idea.
the class necks that we used to make.
Yeah. A super chat from Dastardly Dave. Sir David Dangerous from a million miles away. Brian made me do it. Rocket. Oh, God bless you, Dave. Dave, I owe you a phone call. I'm sorry. You guys don't know, but the shop looks very different today than it did for the last 5 years.
Yes, and not just because there's shit everywhere.
Yep.
We just kept piling it up and then it fell over.
Daryl White says in super chat form, thank you so much, Daryl. Love my orange creamsicle Challenger. Level 1. Can't wait for the June class. Need suggestions for a golf course nearby.
Oh, there's so many golf courses.
There are a boatload. If you want someone to play with, I think that Sandon Brandon is quite the golfer. If you're looking for
like to play, we'll get you hooked up. I don't play golf.
We're looking forward to having you come out too, Daryl. That's going to be fun.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you think of that, Chris? Like, if someone said, I want to build my first guitar, what should it be, and how is the easiest way to go about doing it? Because we've always said Telly, but the idea of, man, I'm building my first one. That's a lot of investment in tools and time and money and
And really, I mean, bodies are fairly straightforward. I apologize. Necks are much harder. There's more stuff. There's more technique. There's more round. There's all sorts of stuff. They're just far more precise. But I think, if you could, I mean, like you said, start with a neck that just needs frets, because every guitar that you build after that one is going to need frets.
It's also going to need frets.
And presumably you'll get better at frets as you go.
Yeah.
Each time, right?
Because there's nothing you can buy.
You might as well get one that needs frets the first thing. If you're interested in building, that's a really good way to go. And then maybe the next one, then maybe you get the neck that doesn't have a contour on the back and you do that. Or you that just seems like the right way to go. Yeah.
Now, of course, this is not what Chris and I did.
No.
None of this is what Chris and I did.
I did stuff kind of like that, though. I mean, some of the first stuff that I did, I made the bodies and bought the necks.
Okay. The first thing that I did was definitely not that.
Well, I didn't have any tools to do any of it. I mean, I had a router.
Yeah.
And that was about it. Some hand tools and So yeah. I even did some bodies where I just bought, raw bodies and painted those and put those together, because I was more into the painting end of it before I even had a router.
Yeah.
And then I got a few tools. I have a few tools at home, but man, if I had to build a guitar at home, I'd be in big trouble, mister.
Mike says, couldn't you just bang some frets into a 2x4? Yeah, sure, it's flat, but maybe you like it like that. And I think what Mike's driving at is uh, practice
Yeah.
wood.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah. Well, the thing about practice wood is are you going to do your best job on something you know you're never going to get to use, or are you just going to
yeah.
slam a couple frets in it and go, yeah, I think I'm good with this? That's what I would do.
Yeah, or what if you made a
So,
neck entirely out of 2x4
mhm,
stuff, but you did it exactly right, or you did it exactly the same way as you would
mhm.
with a piece of maple or something where
Yeah, or a piece of mahogany
you
or
cut a
whatever. Yeah.
fretboard out of
Uh-huh.
it and you slotted it and you radiused it, and then at some point you glued it onto a neck that had a truss rod in it and all that other stuff, and you practice understudied with that, if you will,
Mhm.
and then meticulously and tediously shaped it by hand, and now you have this thing that I don't know, maybe
Maybe
a
it's
Douglas fir
in,
Telecaster neck would be cool.
yeah, maybe it's, yeah, incredibly playable, but probably nobody's going to want to play it. You might want to play it.
I mean, that the
So,
plywood guitar is a perfect example of something that's not unlike that.
well, the the difference between, using a piece of poplar or using a piece of pine or using a piece of maple
Mhm.
isn't that much in dollars.
Ah, that's a great point.
And in the end, if you
Mhm.
do it right, you'll have something that you can really, use and be proud of. If you do it
Yep.
out of pine or poplar, is it going to stay together? Yeah,
I think
probably.
you could build a neck out of poplar, for an extra dollar or 2, you could build a neck out of mahogany, and I
Hmm.
think you'd be better off. I love the idea of an understudy project like that. And guys, there's big news coming from this side of the table very soon about more workshops
Yeah.
and more intense
And we have
workshops,
some
and
actually some interesting ideas on
yeah,
some of that stuff.
yep,
Yeah, yeah. And so much of this always comes down to cost of
yeah,
stuff. And oh well, I don't want to, there's the idea I don't want to ruin a bunch of good wood. Okay, well, so don't buy really expensive figured
yeah.
wood. You can still buy good wood or guitar woods.
What does a 2x4 go for? Like $5, $3?
Shit, I don't even
I
know.
don't know.
I don't even know, but
I couldn't tell you when the last time I bought a
yeah, I
2x4 was.
mean, man, I almost guarantee if you went to the lumber yard, went to the Home Depot
Mhm.
and bought a 2x4 and started hacking on that thing and machined it down, it would go,
Well, that's true too because they're not dry,
yeah,
so
they're
yeah.
they're awful. But I think you could also go to that same store and
Mhm.
buy a chunk of maple that's
Yeah,
pretty nice for not a lot of money.
or poplar
Or
or
poplar.
oak
Yeah,
or
poplar
something
would
like
be
that,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you can make it out of oak.
Mhm,
I'm an oak fan myself.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, and if you're man, if you're building guitars to save money,
mhm. Well, yeah, you
yeah,
are
you gotta want to build guitars because you want to build guitars because you like to use your hands, or you like to build stuff.
Dan, I'm reading your comment, and not reading it, but I think you're talking our language, and you're talking exactly. Doc is saying things too. And this really is what we are talking about with this topic, which is you cannot go out and buy a bunch of tools. You
Hmm.
cannot go out and buy a bunch of fancy figured maple. You can't go out and buy a 2x4 and then all of a sudden get good. You kind of have to put in the work.
You do have to put in the work, and you
And
have to. I think one of the overriding things is you kind of have to go for it.
yeah.
You can't phone anything in.
Hmm.
You got to know that the next one will get better.
Yep.
Presumably there is going to be a next one. This
Don't
is something
quit.
that you're going
Yep.
to want to keep
Yep.
doing, even when you get really frustrated and you say, that's it, I'm going to quit. um, and you leave.
Hey, Chris, here's a question for you. How many people have come to one of our workshops on Monday and quit before the workshop was over?
Nobody ever.
Nobody ever. That's right.
Yep.
Now, how many people have made errors that looked catastrophic, like there's no bouncing back from them?
Uh-huh. Lots and lots, dare I say, almost everybody at some point has gone, well, what are we going to do now?
Yeah,
We're going to fix it.
yeah.
We're going to start over. which has happened
Yeah.
before.
So I urge you to get some training. So this is the big one, gang. Um, we talked about understudy woods, practicing shaping a neck on a 2x4. That's cool, but if you don't have a basis for what you're practicing, you're not really practicing. You're
Yeah.
just kind of doing stuff. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to come here and learn from us because there's lots of good schools. But Chris and I have been doing this for a long time, and we're good at it. Okay, and gang, go to other schools and then come here, or come here and go to other schools, and you tell me, because we do stuff here that you will never be able to do at other places. Um, but yeah, go to as many schools as you can.
Like
Watch as
what?
many videos as you can. Read as many books as you can. But
Yeah.
unless you get some training, you don't know what you're practicing. You're just kind of doing stuff. And I will save you so much money, and I will get you good fast. Chris will save you so much money, and Chris will get you good fast, way faster than just buying a bunch of tools and going for it. There's nothing wrong with buying a bunch of tools and going for it. If you got all the time in the world, good. Do that. If you want to get good quick, we can jump you ahead. And we're gonna have more workshops that help you guys do exactly that coming up. Um, so I look forward to announcing that. I know I'm teasing it. I've been teasing it for the last month or so, but it's finally starting to come to fruition. Wouldn't you say?
I would say so. Yeah. Yeah. For those of you who have been here, wait till you see what we got,
Yeah.
I mean, visually here pretty quick.
Mhm.
We'll show that stuff off too. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah. That-
What's another guitar making don't?
Um,
We
I,
talked
I I
about.
think I think just because you know the steps doesn't mean you're good at the steps.
Okay.
You can't just do the steps and think you're going to end up with something good if you just rush through it.
That's a great one.
Um,
We've seen that before where
yeah,
guys come out and they really are looking towards the finish line,
yeah, yeah,
but they are not paying attention when they have time to do it right.
yeah, and a lot of times the difference between
None of you guys, but
doing it right and doing it is
yeah,
5 minutes,
if that.
you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, and the idea of, well, what do you think of this? Well, what do you think of this? Do you
Mhm.
think you're done? Why are you asking me? I'm not the one that did it, you know? Yeah, did you take your time? Did you do the best job you could, or did you
Mhm.
just, you know, do the steps?
Yeah.
Um, so
A lot of guys have really good things that they're bringing to the table. Um, um, you know, don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong. That kind of stuff.
yeah,
I still need to practice because I still get stuff wrong all the time.
well, that's just yeah,
You know?
part of doing things,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and repetition
I made a
creates
bonehead error the other day. I cut Jimmy's neck pocket on his icon too big. I should have known.
mhm.
I had the neck right there. I should have known, but I didn't. And
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
so um, we had to start over.
Yeah, mistakes happen.
Mhm.
Things happen. Sometimes you can fix them, sometimes you can't. I think another good one is know when to stop. Know when to
Like,
stop
what do you?
fixing,
Okay,
you
yeah.
know? Well, you could cut it in half and glue a piece in the middle and and
Oh
blah, blah, blah.
man.
No, stop. Yeah. There's small fixes, and there's big fixes, there's stop and start overs,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Um, yeah, and that's a hard lesson to learn.
yeah.
Uh, yeah,
And
but
and boy is it. Failing quickly, that's what I call that.
mhm,
Which is not something. It's very easy for me to tell people to do. It's hard for me to do it.
yeah,
Failing quickly and deciding I need to stop. I this is this is not going to be good. What we had I, that happened just the other day. And again, it was with Jim's. I'm like, Jim, here's what happened to your guitar. The neck pocket is slightly too big.
Mm.
Now, the neck is still good, and this body is still good, but they don't go together.
Not anymore.
And if I try to fix or try to rig something, it's going to look like I tried to fix it. It's going to look like I rigged it, and you're going to have something that's you're going to have one thing that's good and one thing that's good. You're going to put them together poorly, and you're going to have one thing that's bad.
Yeah, you can have yeah.
Or you could start some new stuff, and you could say, I need a body that goes with this neck. Happy Meal, done.
Mhm.
I need a neck that goes with this body. No
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah, and yep. There's acceptable fixes. There's things where you just
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah.
So don't even try.
So it's best to know.
Or, sometimes, I mean, if it happens early enough, by the time you fix it, you've wasted so much extra time and extra effort
Yeah.
versus just start over. And that's, part of the deal.
A lot of people say things like, well, I need to learn how to do these repairs. You really don't. You really don't.
You're planning on cutting a lot of guitars in half and putting a piece in the middle? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think that, oh, if I can just get past this one mistake,
Mhm.
then everything else will go smoothly. And usually the fix causes other things down the road.
Yeah.
Like let's just talk about Jim's neck. Jim wants an all maple,
Mhm.
clear, no burst, no anything
Mhm.
icon. So everything's visible on it, right?
Yep.
And if you try and veneer the neck pocket, you'll see it, and all this other stuff. Now, if you were gonna paint that guitar black,
Yeah.
maybe we could have done
Sure.
something with it.
Why does the sunburst finish exist, Chris?
I believe it is to cover up places that are hard to deal with or have tear out or
Yeah.
stuff like that. I am virtually positive of that.
So the sunburst around the edge of the guitar is beautiful. When
Mhm.
you start to see things like in here,
Uh-huh.
up here,
Especially around the neck. Yeah,
yeah,
because that's all stuff that's hard to sand, and if there's
yeah,
gonna be scratches and
hmm,
things like that, that's where they are.
that's where they're going to
Yeah, there's
be.
gonna be, yeah, tooling marks, that's where they are.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's an artistic way to cover up, bad spots, I think.
Yeah,
That's n not that we use sunbursts that way,
no,
but, at this point, we like them because they're, just pretty to look at.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah, anyway.
So yeah, know when to be done, and to know when to fish and when to cut bait. I guess I don't. Yeah,
Yeah, that
I don't
sounds
know.
right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway,
And, I mean, if it's something that you truly love and you're gonna do more of, and just
mhm,
keep charging along.
yeah,
I look at some of my early stuff and go, "Ooh, okay.
yeah,
That doesn't look as good as I thought," even though I thought it I worked really hard on it, and it took a
hmm,
lot of time, and,
hmm.
it's like, "Oh, okay. I'm sure glad I got better."
I'm sure glad I will not be judged on everything that I used to do when, yeah,
Mhm.
many, many, many years ago.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And, yeah, and maybe, something that I've learned here recently is, doing things over and over again, actually makes you quite a bit better at them.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
And I mean, like, like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of the same thing,
of the
of the
same deal,
same d yeah,
let's take frets, for example.
yeah,
I fret the same neck over and over and over and over and
uh-huh,
over again, and they're all challenger necks. The icon necks are essentially the same neck. They're the same radius, they're the same number of frets. Um, when I glue those frets in and press them in, it's the same motion on neck number one that day versus neck whatever the last neck I
mhm,
did that day
yeah,
is.
yep,
Um, when you do paint,
uh-huh,
is there you there was a time when I thought, well, painting, say, a Les Paul would be exactly the same as painting a Strat. It is not.
no,
Is painting a Challenger exactly the same as painting an SG?
no, no, it's funny, I got challengers down in the paint booth, boy.
It's
I can flat out throw some paint,
yeah,
and especially clear and sealer and all that. And then you throw an 8-string Explorer bass at me, and
yeah.
yeah, all of a sudden I'm like,
What in the world?
yeah, thinking about it, and okay, how am I going to do this? Yeah, it just gets narrower and narrower
Yeah.
and narrower at the end. You're like, yeah,
So
but anyway,
that's another guitar building don't, I think, is don't assume that just because you built one thing and you got pretty good at
uh-huh,
all of the steps to build that one thing that you're going to all of a sudden be able to change the guitar radically. Some of those things will carry over.
yeah,
Most of them, maybe most of them will, but there's going to be some stuff that really throws you off. So don't assume that you can do stuff and it'll be exactly identical to the next thing. And give yourself the opportunity to get good at making the same guitar over and over again. It might get really boring after a while. That's one of the reasons that you shouldn't make somebody else's design. You should probably you should probably learn to make a Strat. You should probably learn to make a Les Paul or something like that. And you should do a couple of them because that's like that's like knowing how to play everybody's favorite song by
yeah,
somebody else. But after a while, get good at making your own stuff. And I think you will be happy. And I think everybody who plays your guitars will be happy because there's only so much pride you can have in making somebody else's stuff, singing somebody else's song. I mean, I realize I'm kind of dancing around this a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, Chris, are you happier with your writing your own music or playing somebody else's stuff?
I have no artistic ability to write music, so I
Okay,
play other people's music, but
I guess that was a bad okay
bad example
bad
on that
example
one.
on my part.
But I mean, well, and even if you're let's say you love tellies and that's all you want to make,
Hmm.
okay, keep making tellies, or maybe at some point you'll venture out and create a slightly different looking telly,
Hmm.
whatever.
Make it your own. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, make it your own.
I think it's really cool. Like Dylan, for example, he'll get a guitar with really expensive pickups in it. He'll yank them out and put his own stuff in there
Yeah,
because he loves what he does. He makes his own pickups and he likes the pickups that he makes better than anybody else's. And that's the thing. Like I often say that. Like I'll put our stuff up against anybody else's stuff, not because ours is inherently better, but because I think it's every bit as good, if not better. Now that doesn't mean that it's your cup of tea, but it's mine, and
yeah,
I love all the guitars that we make. That's why I don't make I don't make a lot of other people are like, hey, can you make me a whatever? And at this stage of the game, I just say no.
yeah,
I don't do it anymore because it's not fair to you. It would take way too long, and it's not. Um, it takes me way too much time, and the energy expended is not what I want to do. It's a tricky thing to do. Anyway, so um yeah. Well, what do you think, Chris? We're just about ready to wrap this one up. Is there going to be a reveal tomorrow, sir?
I think there'll be a couple things that we could reveal if you want to do a reveal. Yeah,
Okay, all right. Um,
we have one that we could reveal, but I think it's going home with the dude.
what guitar is that?
Gee, I wonder which guitar is that?
Yeah, maybe you want to talk about it now, just real fast.
Yeah, we can do
We're
that.
here.
So this is Ike from Flipside Music's Icon.
That is a beautiful guitar.
It sure
So Ike's coming
is.
by first thing tomorrow morning to pick this one up,
Yeah,
and I don't think we're going to see the guitar or him for at least a couple days.
yeah, it'll go
I
away.
think he's going to
That'll be that. It's
disappear.
got a really, really great top.
I mean, we'll see it again, but I think
Oh yeah,
we'll see.
absolutely.
I'm pretty sure we'll see it at the shop, and we'll see. I think he's going to play this one out, right? a
That's
lot.
the idea. Yeah, I think he's got some ideas for
Okay.
for what to do with this guitar. This guitar makes people want to do things they've never done before
I
or they haven't done in a long
It
time.
makes people want to play the guitar.
Yeah,
That's for
yeah. And
sure.
the funny thing is, so I finished it up and I plugged it in and I'm playing it and I'm like, I know I got a bunch of other stuff I should do. But I really just want to play this guitar for like an hour, but I couldn't 'cause I had other stuff to do. So yeah. So there you go.
Excellent. Excelente.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's an icon, and we've got a bunch of orders for icons, and they're all going right now.
They are all going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been assembling some other guitars. We'll have
Where's that ash one? Is
more stuff.
that's floating around here somewhere? I
Yeah.
think it's the nope. It's maybe it's that. I don't know where it
It's
is.
this one
Is
here.
it that one? I hopefully we'll be able to see that one coming up soon. I like that one a lot. The ash one is pretty nice.
It's got a maple top.
Hmm.
Actually, a lot of figure in that. You can't see it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. There we go. But then it's got ash back and sides, which is nifty.
Chris Hendricks wants to know if his Challenger is close to reveal. We
It
got
will
pickups
be done next week. I don't think I'll be. Well, tomorrow's Friday. I'm not going to be able to get it that far, but yes,
We were
yes.
waiting on some pickups from Dylan, and Dylan got us a big
It
shipment of
is
pickups. And
number 4 or 5 in the queue.
okay,
I'm almost done with 1 and 2.
now
So
I think like on Chris's,
actually,
all you have to do is like put the pieces on it and get the nut done. And
yeah, it's got a nut. The fretwork's done. It's final assembly stuff.
Yeah.
And that takes a couple hours. So yeah, it'll be done really, 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 really soon.
All right, gang. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, you guys. And I would encourage you to go over to check out Dylan and his lovely wife Leslie, their page at Dylan Talks Tone, and hang out with them for an hour, or even hang out with them for a couple hours. I think they've got the first hour they do they do kind of a guitar centric podcast, and then the second hour I think they talk about just whatever is drifting through their transom at the time, and whether it's like I think Dylan's really into pens and and knives and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know what they talk about. But I think it's whatever you guys want to talk about too. You want to talk about pens and knives and cooking stuff. I think
As dispensers.
I think they talk about it all. Yeah. So and I think Rob's guitar is like
Robert Smith
is one or
Yeah.
two, right? In the queue of things.
No, it's
Okay.
number 3.
Number 3. All right. Well, all right. What's okay? I think I see
There's a whole bunch there.
there's
Yeah.
like
I mean,
ready to go.
so I spent Monday and Tuesday
Mhm.
uh
Oh yeah.
doing and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Mhm.
No, Monday and Tuesday, because yesterday was Wednesday.
Mhm.
We did a bunch of other
Mhm.
stuff yesterday. Doing frets and nuts and yeah, getting a bunch of stuff like lined up for parts.
Yeah.
We're waiting for pickups. But we have pickups now, and yeah, there's going to be a bunch of guitars to get buttoned up here pretty quick. I think I
Cool.
got 7 or 8 of them ready for final assembly.
Neat.
And I do final assembly. I do 2 at a time.
Okay. Oh, that's
And
right.
it
There's
takes
2
a
over there.
3 hours in, all the way through. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right, gang. Well, we will see you tomorrow for some kind of reveal. And after that, I've got a video that you will not be expecting for Sunday. But I'm going to say some things that you probably didn't think I would ever say on Sunday. So tease you just a little bit, Dan. And we will talk to you guys later. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, see, now I have to get this. There we go.